How's it going, everyone? Welcome back. Hope everyone is having a lovely day. Bengals 49ers gonna be a big game this weekend in San Francisco. The last time these two teams matched up was 2 years ago, 2021, late in the season, when the Bengals started to figure things out. They made that Super Bowl run, but it was the San Francisco 49ers that took that game in overtime against the Bengals. Burrow sacked 5 times. Burrow threw for 348. George Kittle went for over 150. A lot of familiar faces in that game. Some things have changed, some not so much. You have to believe the San Francisco defense, San Francisco offense has improved since that 2021 season. The Bengals' offensive line, meanwhile, that allowed 5 sacks to Joe Burrow, also has improved since that time. The defense, debatable. Debatable where it's at right now. Lou Anarumo seems to figure things out later in the season. Personnel-wise, it does feel like that 2021 team was a little bit better. They was playing a little bit better, but we'll see as the season progresses. Again, Lou seems to get these guys playing better and better each week as we've seen against Seattle, where they seemingly locked down Kenneth Walker and company. Part of the game the Bengals defense was struggling at the first few weeks of the season was stopping that run, getting gashed team after team after team. And stopping that run this week, once again, is going to be very important because Christian McCaffrey is one heck of a running back. Speaking of different faces on this offense, since the last time the Bengals seen this San Francisco team, he is a tough dude to stop, arguably still the best versatile running back in the league. And he's been playing outstanding this season. You bring in Brock Purdy. You still have Ayuk. Deebo Samuel going to miss this. That's going to be a big one. Deebo Samuel going to miss this game for the 49ers the way it looks. He's expected to miss 2 games with that hairline fracture. Deebo was a very effective player out of the backfield for the 49ers a couple years ago. They used them a lot more back then, I think, though, as well. When you have Christian McCaffrey now, you got a little bit more flexibility. But back then, Samuel was used frequently out of the backfield in some design runs and designed some passes for him. That was the year he had 14 receiving yards, though, as well. He had a stellar season. I think what's going to be more interesting is the matchup with George Kittle. Kittle just a couple weeks back, 3 touchdowns. 3 touchdowns in a game. Massive game for George Kittle. And again, can he repeat what he did against the Bengals a couple years ago? I think he very well can. I think this has been, and we'll see. We'll see how it goes this year. The Bengals, have they seen a dominant tight end team yet this season? I don't. Browns got Mark Andrews. Or not Browns, Ravens got Mark Andrews. But, typically, since the Bengals have had historically a problem slowing down the tight end. We could see George Kittle get targeted a lot in this game by the 49ers. Bengals got to find a way to slow him down. But it's one of those things not as easily done as it is said, because again, this is a 49ers team. It does feel like, to me, in my opinion, it does feel like the team that comes out of the NFC is the Super Bowl favorite this season to make the Super Bowl. Because again, you slow down Kittle. You can't double cover Kittle because then you got to deal with Ayuk. You can't put all the attention in the world on these guys, give them a light box, because then you're going to deal with Christian McCaffrey running the football down your throat all game and dominating this game. They are such a complete football team in the trenches, most importantly in the trenches. The bosa on the opposite side there, Hargrave. These guys, Fred Warner in the second linebacking corps. These guys are just talented and loaded across the board in San Francisco. And from a personnel standpoint, from a complete team standpoint, it does feel like it's them, the Eagles, and then big drop everyone else in the NFC this season. I just like the way that this 49ers team lines up. Kyle Shanahan draws up the plays, changes up the personnel, coaches his football team to think, hey, this will be the team to beat this season. If it wasn't for, their whole team and plus about 27 backups last season getting injured, they probably would have made the Super Bowl last season. I mean, this is a team up until they lost to Cleveland a couple weeks back that won 18 of the last 20 football games they played. Now, we're not sure what happens in Minnesota yet. I don't want to draw the conclusions, but I feel like they're going to it's not going to be pretty. Sorry, Minnesota. It's not going to go well. That's going to be an ugly one for Minnesota. I think they win that one. We'll see again Monday Night Football tonight. But, a team that won 18 of the last 20 games, their only losses, the Eagles, the Chiefs. Stellar football. Meanwhile, this season, again, 5-1, probably going to be 6-1, looking like the stellar football team that they have been for the past year and a half. Now, we flip it over to the Bengals side of the football. 3-3 season. Very, 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 can't stress it enough, very typical Zach Taylor start to the season. A Bengals start 0-2. This is what Zach Taylor does. His specialty is getting the Bengals out to a slow start, digging them out of a hole. Unfortunately, you get out of that slow start, kind of hurts your seeding and the implications down the road, but they do and he does find a way to figure things out with this football team and get them on a winning track. You have to give him credit for that. Bengals now started 0-2, lost to the Browns, lost to the Ravens, lost the game to the Titans they did not think was going to happen. That was kind of the shocker of the season. Besides that, though, they won the other 3 games. They're on a 2-game win streak. They just played what looked like 2 of their better football games the last 2 games, especially on the defensive side of the football last week against Seattle Seahawks, a football team that was expecting to run the football, and they have no problem doing it. Lock you down on defense, run the football. And they did it time in and time again. The Bengals offense stalled out in the second half, and they stalled out in the second half. I don't know if you've seen it, but they stalled out in the second half. The Bengals defense bailed out this football team in such a big way to end this game. Geno Smith's been playing some solid football, but he goes out there and sacked multiple times. What was it, 3 times in the last 2 drives of that game? The Seahawks had 2 different opportunities to bring that football down the field and score and put points on the board, and the Bengals defense locked them down in the red zone. And that, again, is what it's going to come down to this week is, can Trey Hendrickson and company, by the way, playing much like his 2021 self again. It felt like last season, you don't want to say he regressed, but maybe he had dealing with some injuries, maybe he was just having a down season. He was still solid, but it once again feels like he can be that game changer, that game wrecker out there on the edge for the Bengals, a much needed game changer and game wrecker there on the edge. But I think it comes down to, as always, and this is what's won the Bengals, made this Bengals football team a championship team in the past 2 seasons, an AFC championship contender, a Super Bowl appearance these last 2 seasons, is the fact that this Cincinnati Bengals defense can bend but does not break. They hold you to the field goals. They may, again, give up them yards. You get inside the 20s, you get inside the 30s, they start to really clamp down. They force teams to kick those field goals. It keeps them in football games. And that is what we're going to have to see. There's no question about it. We need to see that against San Francisco, and we need to see the Cincinnati Bengals offense find a way to click. A Bengals offense that, again, is struggling mightily to run the football. They're going to go up against the 3rd best rush defense in the league this season. They're going to go up against a team, again, I know it was 2 years ago. Lots changed, but Mixon couldn't run the football then either. Bengals relied on the arm of Joe Burrow. And I think that's the one thing that can bring you a lot of comfort as a Bengals fan. Hey, 340 last time this team played the San Francisco 49ers. And they did it with that offensive line. An offensive line that was just beaten and battered, Burrow getting killed back there. And he still found a way to move that football up and down the field because, hey, Joe Burrow at his best, that's what Joe Burrow does. They got to the Super Bowl that season with Joe Burrow getting crushed, getting sacked 9 times in a football game. The way the Bengals moved won football games was finding ways for Burrow to make a couple plays, the defense locking things down. And I think if you look at the Bengals this season and say, hey, it does feel like this is a game they could get dominated. Let's be completely honest. You go on the road. The Bengals have been dominated by a couple teams this season. That's why they're a -6 here. They're 6-point underdog, because it hasn't been close in a couple games this season. But I think what's important to remember is this is now a healthier Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow could not move out of the pocket in those football games because of that calf injury he's dealing with. Joe Burrow has been a much more mobile quarterback these past couple of games. Joe Burrow just coming off a full week of or full 2 weeks almost, really, to get healthy off the bye week here. T. Higgins dealing with some injuries, coming back now. He's going to get that extra week to recover here. He's ineffective that last game. Again, he was played through a lot of pain, just kind of suited up to suit up, played through the pain, but he was clearly struggling out there still. He can get past the dropsies. He can have a big game. Jamar Chase, averaging dang near 14 targets per game these last 4 games. Boy, has he been involved. And ever since he said, I'm always open. He's backed that up in every single way possible here. Bengals got a chance to find a way if they can. This is where it gets difficult. If the Bengals can find a way to get some deep chances here, force this secondary to respect the deep ball. And that's where that's where the run game becomes a concern, because I don't expect the run game to be too effective in this game. It hasn't been all season. You're going to go up against the San Francisco 49ers front 7 that they don't allow a lot of yards on the ground, to say the very least. But at the end of the day, when you have Joe Burrow as your quarterback, a healthy Joe Burrow as your quarterback, and you give him a complement of weapons out wide to throw the football to, and just a little bit of things, he just might one of the more surprising statistics you might have of the season here. The San Francisco 49ers, now again, they haven't played Monday night, but as of right now, they're in the bottom half of the league in sacks on the quarterback. They can tee off against the Bengals, or it's an interesting one here because this team's so good at playing defense, so good at getting pressure on the quarterback. It kind of surprises you that they would be bottom half of the league right now. Nonetheless, I mean, if there's any sort of seeing that same average statistic continue here against the Bengals. Hey, all in favor for the Bengals, but this is definitely one of those games where you go into the football game and say, hey, the 49ers have the more complete football team. They really do. I don't think it's a debate. Bengals got a lot of talented players, but right now San Francisco, the trenches are so important in this game. The Bengals getting better, but still clearly lacking in that department. You look at the tight end play by San Francisco. You look at the guys on that line, the guys on that second. This is a really talented football team. But at the end of the day, what has happened the past 2 seasons under Joe Burrow and company is, if you're an opposing team, the last thing you want to do is be a heavy favorite. The last thing you want is Joe Burrow going in that football game being told, hey, there's no chance you're going to win this one. Because, hey, guess what? This isn't the first time that's happened. They weren't supposed to be the Chiefs. They weren't supposed to beat them a second. They weren't supposed to beat them a third time. It wasn't even supposed to be close. They weren't supposed to have a chance to go anywhere in the playoffs. They were supposed to give or their season should have been done. They were supposed to win 3 games. And when Joe Burrow hears that, and Joe Burrow goes into these games saying, I can't beat you, it's somehow, some way, he finds a way to win those football games. And you best believe if the Bengals find a way to win this football game, they might not lose the game the rest of the season. They'll probably lose to the Ravens and Browns again. Some reason they can't beat Lamar, they can't beat the Browns. But no, when you play a game against the San Francisco 49ers, you find a way to win in San Francisco. You talk about a momentum shift. You talk about a team that is on the trajectory up straight into winning the division and going to the playoffs and making a run. It starts right here in San Francisco. Now, do the Bengals expect to win every football game? But as a fan, as the team, or as people watching it, expect them to win this one? No. Is 3-4 can you get through that? Yeah, you can't. You ain't gonna miss playoffs because of the 3-4 season. They do run a gauntlet here in the future, and they got to start winning some football games. But they can make a run still here and win. I think ultimately, I think it's gonna be a good game. I think the Bengals are gonna lose this one though. I think San Francisco wins this one. We're gonna say San Francisco 27, Bengals 20. I love you guys' thoughts. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.